Hello and welcome back to another Star Citizen video with the Tough Eggs. So yesterday, Cloud Imperium Games released their promised brief update on the Quantum system, which is the system in control of the game's AI. I say short, but TonyZ talked for 40 minutes, but it was incredibly informative and I highly recommend giving it a watch. I'd also love to hear your opinions on the subject, so please don't hesitate to drop a comment down below. Within this video, large swaths of the back-end services operating within Star Citizen were discussed. One particular area that interested me was the update to bounty hunting, or bounty hunting v2 as it's called on the roadmap. The new system allowed AI pirates to interact with players within a certain proximity to them, but also conduct raids in an ethereal state against other NPCs. This state lowered their impact on server performance, which we can all agree is brilliant, but also allowed for continued growth and evolution of each NPC character, even when players couldn't see them, which meant bounty targets could increase in rank and difficulty, even when players aren't around. Whilst in this ethereal state, the AI pirates will continually add to their internal rap sheet, increasing the bounty placed upon them accordingly. So for every murder or heist they commit, more bounty will be placed upon their heads, meaning players will more than likely want to engage with them. Also, every time the pirate enters an area covered by a common or lands at a station, all of this data is added to their record, a record that players can interact with, allowing players to actively track down targets, decipher patterns within their movement, and eventually plan and intercept them to claim that bounty reward. Now, to further break this down, I'm going to cut to a 6-minute video clip where TonyZ describes the proposed changes to bounty hunting better than I ever could.
Okay, so back to the example. Once the player gets close enough to Port Olisar, that area is streamed into existence, loaded onto a server, and the NPCs initialized to resume whatever they should be doing at that time of day. Now I'm going to introduce a VMC pirate near the player, and they're going to immediately attack. After a few moments, the VMPC comes out ahead in this battle, and the player is killed. Because their crime was committed in range of an active comrade, it's recorded in their character history along with the time and location of the felony. An upcoming tracking app will allow you to access information like this if you've registered with the local authorities, so that the digital footprints players and VMPCs leave behind can be tracked. This VMPC's name is Dragon, and since they're now wanted in this jurisdiction, the comrade has affixed a real-time marker to his position. With the only player in this area dead, the server now streams Port Olisar and the comrade out, but as I previously noted, VMPCs aren't destroyed like a regular NPC created from a probability volume, and their logic isn't suspended like an NPC at a landing zone. Instead, VMPCs simply transition from their physicalized state, where authority over their actions is controlled by subsumption logic executing on a server, to their native ethereal state, where their virtual AI executes on the back end. Dragon now begins to exit the area, and the comrade continues to track his position until he passes out of range, at which point the real-time information converts to a last known position report. He's decided that he needs money and he's a bit risk-averse, so he elects to head all the way out to Yellow, where there are quite a few transport freighters carrying valuable ore and little in the way of security. Okay, Dragon has arrived at Yellow's asteroid field and has now crossed back into range of another active comrade, so his real-time position is now once again being reported as indicated by both the character history and the tracking marker. There aren't any players in this area, and thus none of this is streamed onto a server. Everything you're seeing is a result of a variety of different services communicating with one another. VMPCs trigger probability volumes just like players, and Yellow's shows that there's quite a bit of freighter traffic in this area. So Dragon won't have to wait very long before he generates an encounter. There's one. Dragon just caused the creation of a freighter, which itself becomes a VMPC so that it can react to what's happening via its own virtual AI. Dragon now engages the freighter. He starts firing on it. He's still within range of an active comrade, and thus this latest crime is added to his character history. He's now wanted for both murder and piracy, and the bounty on him just jumped from 6 to 10,000 UEC. Increasing the size of their rap sheet and the price on their head is one of the simplest forms of VMPC evolution, and over time we'll look to add additional ways for VMPCs to grow and increase their influence, from recruiting followers in an attempt to become a shipping magnate or a crime boss to offering their own missions. The captain of that freighter isn't going to surrender so easily. He's broadcast a combat assist service beacon that players can choose to accept, and he's offered a 3,000 UEC reward for his protection. Unfortunately for him, he's pretty heavily outmatched, and he's quickly destroyed, causing the service beacon to expire before anyone can come to his aid. Bits of information like this are fed back to Quantum, and in sufficient quantity will cause all sorts of things to change. How much security patrol missions in that area pay, what transports that have to travel through that area will demand as a risk premium, and how much a ship in distress will offer for someone to come to their aid. The freighter's destruction has left some debris and possibly a few items of value, so if a player had already been en route, they might arrive to find the aftermath. Another murder has now been attributed to Dragon, and the bounty on him just once again jumped, this time from 10 to 14,000 UEC. He took a bit of damage from that encounter and is eventually going to need some repairs. A harder working pirate might look to plunder a few more freighters before heading back, but Dragon's personality attributes indicate that once he's got enough cash to cover the basics, he's more interested in drinking and gambling than piracy. So he leaves the area, and once again the real-time location tracking ceases once he's out of range of the comm array. He's heading back to Port Olisar, which is the closest location that has everything he wants. A fence to sell his stolen goods, shops to repair and restock his ship, and a bar where he can spend the remainder of his cash. The comm array near Port Olisar has been disabled, which means that Dragon's position isn't updated upon approach. The area remains devoid of any players, and thus it's still not streamed into memory. Dragon can therefore remain in his ethereal state and avoid a lot of computational expense related to maneuvering his ship, but he still needs to interface with the air traffic control service to request a landing pad and transition from his ship to the station. Services like this are always fully operational and accessible to VNPCs. That landing request is logged to his history though, so while the disabled comm array would make it a bit harder for a bounty hunter to track him, there are lots of other ways by which locational information on a character can be obtained. Dragon needed to refuel and repair his ship, and you can see those actions reflected in his history as he interfaces with the shop service that controls those operations. When a VNPC transitions to a landing zone that's streamed in, the virtual AI service that drives their logic temporarily cedes control of the character to the NPC scheduler that specifies who resides at what location. This is the same foundation upon which the dynamic populations feature will be built, except that it will be Quantum instead of the virtual AI service dictating the changes in the population. The end result is that if a VNPC is assigned to a landing zone and you're at that location, you can run into them like any other NPC. Dragon is now hanging out in the local bar, which was added to Port Olisar for the purposes of this demo. If you were to walk into the bar at this moment, he'd be physicalized with the rest of the environment and you'd actually see him there. Dragon eventually gets his fill of entertainment, or maybe he just runs out of money. Either way, it's back to work, and he'll be jetting back to Yellow to try and prey on more unprotected cargo ships. So he contacts air traffic control to get clearance to leave the area and departs. The same player that Dragon first encountered and killed is looking to exact some revenge, though, and claim the big bounty on Dragon's head. They've surmised that there might be a pattern to Dragon's movement and think that he might head back out to Yella. So they position themselves between Port Olisar, where they know that Dragon just left, and Yella and activate a quantum interdiction field. Dragon, still in his lightweight ethereal form, initiates a quantum jump from Port Olisar to Yella and, just like a player, routes that movement through the probability volume service that is responsible for interdictions. Once he gets within range of the player's interdiction bubble, his jump is interrupted and he transitions from executing virtual AI on the back end to a full-blown subsumption-driven AI executing logic on a server so that the two of them can battle it out. If the player once again gets the worst of it, they might decide to change up their tactics a bit and wait to see if Dragon soon returns to Port Olisar, where they could try to sneak up on him on foot.
So, these proposed changes in gameplay really sound incredible and will profoundly impact how bounty hunting affects the system as a whole. Increased piracy levels will slow the cargo vessels moving in an area, creating a rise in commodity prices. This will in turn lead to players attempting to exploit this increase in prices and will spawn dynamic events in the future. Events where players must actively participate to ensure the area becomes pirate-free or remains a pirate haven. This change in AI behaviour will almost certainly affect how players interact with each other. If piracy surges in a specific area, a lot of player pirates will flock to this. In turn, so will bounty hunters and perhaps hired escort pilots, creating hotspots for both PvE and PvP combat that can shift and change depending on the outcome of those engagements. Resting on the outcome of these engagements, commodity prices may also alter. This will encourage more PvP piracy, with players and cargo ships being intercepted and held ransom. When these changes are introduced, the economy and base player interactions within the game will be so much more diverse. Pirates will have some tangible gameplay, with their efforts having a noticeable impact within the Stanton system. Likewise, bounty hunters and more security-minded players will have a more focused and interactive gameplay experience. Granted, the money gained from bounty hunting might slow, but it will be considerably more fun and engaging, which is something I imagine we would all appreciate. Other alterations mentioned in the video heavily focused on the economy and material usage, which will directly impact more industrial-focused players. As different raw materials become more valuable, we may see shifts in mining priorities from solely quantanium to currently the less valuable ores such as aluminium. Which again will mean player pirates will attempt to intercept these more valued cargo deliveries in different locations of the star system. Some of these changes have already been added, albeit in a very limited way. You may have noticed the price update alerts, allowing pilots to plan trade routes. It also ensures large quantities of the materials are available to be purchased and sold at the given locations, solving the trade issues that have been plaguing the game for the past few patches. I will be touching on these price updates in a more detailed guide within the next week or so. No, I don't want to go into too much more detail with these changes, as Tony's video aptly covers this, but all in all, these planned changes sound incredible. Work has already been completed on some of the bounty hunting v2 updates, though as of the recording of this video, no release date has been provided on the roadmap. But when they are slowly introduced, I look forward to seeing how they impact the game and the interactions between players. Thank you for watching today, guys. The information provided in the latest Quantum video was brilliant. As mentioned previously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Feel free to like, comment and subscribe, as we greatly appreciate it here at the Tough Eggs. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.